There's nothing quite like seeing an overconfident trash talker get totally dealt with. And as fans of combat sports, we get the pleasure of witnessing moments like these all the time. Here's what happens when trash talkers in boxing get exactly what they deserve. When the rising young talent that was Mike Tyson was scheduled to take on Jesse Ferguson, the fight was expected to serve up an interesting challenge for this heavyweight prospect. Up to that point, Tyson had been making short work of most of his adversaries, displaying that legendary power that would eventually lead him all the way to superstardom. But Ferguson, who was decently experienced at this point in time, seemed to believe that he could bring something to the table that Tyson hadn't experienced before. In his own words, he believed he could drag Tyson into deep waters and force him to fight the type of fight he'd never fought before.
I plan on fighting him back, using my experience. My bread and butter punch was the left hook, and keep him at bay. I don't want to run from him. I want to stay there and fight him, because nobody hasn't done that, and see how he reacts. I feel I have a better chance of beating him if it goes in the later rounds, but if it doesn't go in the later rounds, it's fine. In the earlier rounds, I'm strong. In the later rounds, I get stronger. And I feel that I can beat Mike Tyson.
Knowing what we know now about Mike, sounds a bit ridiculous, right? But you got to admire the dude's courage and the audacity to be so public with his prediction. Ferguson seemed to think that the key to beating a fighter like Tyson was to stop him from being the hammer and make him act as the nail. And in some ways, he was right. It would just take a much better fighter to execute. Because on fight night, Iron Mike showed that he has levels beyond Ferguson, a greater talent in spite of his age than his opponent could ever imagine being. And from the get-go, Tyson fired brutal hammering punches, working the body relentlessly before going upstairs with a huge uppercut to drop him in the fifth. At this point, Ferguson certainly understood just how wrong he'd been, and it didn't take long for Tyson to finish him off. In fact, the referee stepped in the following round and gave Jesse Ferguson a way out. Sometimes you can talk a big game and it helps you to grow in confidence. But in this case, this dude was never truly up to the task. Tyson was just too fast, too powerful, and too vicious with his punches. Ferguson, in truth, never really stood a chance. Few did back in those days.
The obvious punch right here is the uppercut. He turns around, digs right to the body, and then comes straight up with the right uppercut. Tyson has a tendency to turn left-handed.
We jump forward a decade and a half to a now 34-year-old Tyson, a man who'd experienced his fair share of ups and downs to that point. Sure, he wasn't the same fighter he had been in his youth, but up against Andrew Golota, the majority of fans still saw Iron Mike as the betting favorite. And after watching Golota establish a reputation as one of the dirtiest fighters in the sport, there were more than a few fans hoping that Iron Mike could run back the clock and serve up a vintage KO. Golota was smug and dismissive of Mike pre-fight, although he did remain respectful. But when asked about the allegations of him being dirty, he cracked a pretty terrible joke, saying he just showered.
Mike Tyson is a legend, you know. Was the youngest heavyweight ever, you know, who won the title. And you know what? It was a time to break it, you know. Somebody said maybe I'm dirty, but it's not the truth.
A fighter who simply cannot stop himself from throwing low blows. Low blows, and down goes Bo again.
Yeah. You know, it's true, and I'm taking the shower like 3 times a day, you know, so believe me that. I think I'm grown enough, you know, to step in the ring and win this guy. Physically, I never felt better. Believe me or not, you know, I feel so strong.
For his fights, Golota vows not to be intimidated by Tyson.
I think he knows what this is all about, you know. He doesn't come here not to do anything stupid, you know. And I need the win. That's what it is.
Either way, Golota wasn't exactly beloved by the masses, and his plan to take Tyson into a dogfight was never going to work out in his favor. Tyson, even at this stage, was still Mike Tyson. But this pay-per-view was truly one of the most anticlimactic in boxing history, a farce of an event that saw Golota anger even his most devoted fans. After getting knocked down in the opening round, Golota tried to quit on the stool, but he was talked into continuing by his corner. 5 minutes later, just before round 3, he succeeded in quitting. And the fans were not happy, pelting him with drinks and other projectiles as he left the arena. However, the most shocking part came when he tried to claim that he quit in the fight because of a headbutt, and that the knockdown scored by Tyson was nothing more than a slip. Talk about deluded. Well, the fight's result would be overturned to a no contest after Iron Mike tested positive for marijuana. One of boxing's most meaningless nights for sure. Galata would not return to the ring for another 3 years. This has to be seen as one of the most embarrassing nights in boxing history.
Get him up. That was an accident. You okay?
Mike's showing these little branches here. That big right hand got all souped up.
Ricky Hatton was a good boxer and a solid talker during his best years in the sport. But when he was matched up against the legendary Floyd Mayweather, this was a total mismatch. Hatton's attempts to trash talk just weren't landing, as the uber-confident Floyd just brushed off every line Hatton threw at him.
Floyd's been aggressive towards me all week. As you can see, he's been aggressive tonight, and he's like that. And I think he's trying to get under my skin this week and worry me and look in my eyes and see a little bit of fear. I only have one message. You're pissing into the wind, son. I ain't scared of you.
Ricky was clearly trying to let Money Mayweather know that he wasn't intimidated and that his performance in the ring wasn't going to be affected by the aura that Mayweather possessed at this point in time. And to be honest, Hatton was probably telling the truth. But fear wasn't his biggest problem in there with a fighter like Floyd. No, the sheer gulf in the technical quality was something that he always was going to struggle with. Ricky's best shot at winning this fight was provoking Floyd into making a mistake. So you can't blame him for trying, but prime Mayweather's mind was truly bulletproof. And this wasn't the young, more aggressive pretty boy Floyd either. No, this was the older, more mature Mayweather, a man who was damn near impossible to hit cleanly on the chin. But as it turned out, Floyd was about to serve up a performance that would run back the clock. And on fight night, Floyd was clearly the better fighter. Sure, at first Hatton's forward pressure made things interesting for maybe a round or two, but once Mayweather got his reads, and Mayweather always gets his reads, the bout became less and less competitive. Hatton's frustration led to him getting docked a point for punching Floyd on the back of the head, and then some play acting mid-fight got him a warning from the ref. But in round 10, Floyd, who's not usually known as a power puncher, connected with a huge left hook, putting Ricky down on the canvas. Sensing that a rare finish was in sight, Mayweather piled on the pressure and got the Englishman out of there shortly after. It's not often Floyd took home a TKO in his later days as a result of constant problems with breaking his hands. But on this occasion, Ricky Hatton's mouth wrote him a check that he just couldn't cash on fight night. And when Floyd came to collect, he did so with violent consequences.
And then he hit his head off the turnbuckle, and he's very, very wobbly. A left hook came like a bolt out of the blue.
We jump back in time again to the prime years of Mike Tyson's career, this time with his 1988 clash with title contender Tony Tubbs. You've all heard of Mike Tyson, of course. The guy's a fighting icon, one of the most famous pop culture figures of the last 50 years. And we're sure that very few of you have ever heard of Tony Tubbs. But based off the way Tubbs was talking pre-fight, you'd almost believe he was about to shock the world.
I got to come in the ring because I feel good about my weight, and I feel good to win. At 28, 30, I'm strong and I'm fast. Mike Tyson got to deal with that. You'll be seeing the new Tony Tubbs. When I step in the ring, everyone say, wow, look at that cat. You know, and the thing about it, once I start putting the moves down on Mike Tyson, I won't change. You know what? This fight might not be hard as y'all think it's gonna be, because Mike Tyson is only good for what he can hit. You know, right now that I am one of the best heavyweights in the world. I can box better than any of them, and I ain't taking no back seats to none of them. I'm not even taking the back seat to Mike Tyson.
Seriously, it was like he knew something we didn't. There was a look in his eye, one of pure confidence. Or at least that's how it might have looked at the time. Because knowing what we know now, this was all just empty trash talk, supported by a level of confidence that made zero sense. Tubbs was way too cocky, telling the world that this was going to be an easy fight for him. A fight so simple that most people would be left totally shocked when all was said and done. And if the fight wasn't judged off its first 5 minutes alone, Tubbs was actually doing pretty well. He wasn't winning or anything, but his ability to trade with Iron Mike was still pretty impressive. If there were any doubts about Tubbs, they were certainly starting to disappear. I say starting, though, because Tyson didn't take long to figure out his opponent. And by the end of round 2, Tyson had made enough reads to know exactly how to shut his man down. And as soon as that hammer blow landed, Tubbs was out of it. There was no inspiring underdog story, and all of Tony's pre-fight words were shown to be cocky trash talk with a major emphasis on the word trash. Another highlight reel finish for Iron Mike Tyson.
Because Tubbs tried to stay inside and fight Mike Tyson's fight, which I thought was a mistake. Once again, that's short left hook. And for those that say Mike is not really a one-punch knockouter, I think they need to look at...
Still, the undefeated, undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, Iron Mike Tyson!
Marco Antonio Barrera is a bona fide legend in boxing, a man who reached heights within the sport that most fighters could only dream of. And in contrast to him, Kennedy McKinney, not exactly a name that brings too many memories to light. But for some reason, McKinney took aim at Barrera pre-fight like he was his greatest rival to date, promising him that they were simply not on the same level, while repeatedly antagonizing him by calling him boy. Little did he know that he was standing opposite a future Hall of Famer. But don't worry, this loudmouth was about to have the entirety of his poor judgment made very, very clear to him.
House and a car, bills I gotta pay, and I dare for you to come here and think you can beat me, huh? Think you can beat me, boy? You cannot beat me. You cannot whoop me here in my town. This is...
Things got so heated between these two that they had to be separated during the press conference. But there'd be no one to save McKinney on fight night. In fact, when this eagerly awaited contest finally kicked off, it seemed like Barrera was actually trying to punish his opponent. He didn't just get McKinney out of there early. No, this was an extended beating, a long, drawn-out nightmare that saw Barrera score 5 knockdowns across the 12-round distance. And it's not like McKinney made it to the scorecards either, which could have been seen as a small moral victory. No, Barrera turned up the heat on him late and got the finish in the final round. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you punish an opponent after feuding with them pre-fight. An absolute demolition job by the great Marco Antonio Barrera. As you might expect, McKinney never truly amounted to much within the sport. Barrera, on the other hand, is a hugely revered talent for his generation, a guy whose skills and resume are remembered fondly to this day. Back to more Iron Mike Tyson next. And this time, we get a look at just how big of a hole you can dig for yourself with your pre-fight talking. Now, to be fair, When fighters come in confident and express their belief that they have a secret weapon to challenge their opponent with, you can't expect them to reveal their secret before the fight because, well, it wouldn't be a secret, right? But after a solid camp spent devising the perfect game plan, Lorenzo Boyd seemed convinced that he had the ideal solution to the number 2 ranked Mike Tyson. And in his pre-fight interviews, he spoke with confidence about his abilities, about how Iron Mike was only human, and that we had witnessed that in his last fight.
Depend on taking the fight to the guy. I don't think anyone's done that. And I just plan on going in there, and actually you hear all trainers and other fighters, they'll say, don't fight in another guy's game. Well, I plan to get right in his game with him. My stablemate, Quick Tillis, he kind of broke that ice on his mystique. You know, everyone in the country was very intimidated by him, and Tillis let everyone know this guy's vulnerable. Makes lots of mistakes. Tillis opened that up, and I prepared Tillis for this fight, and he also helped me in return. And I'm ready for the guy, and I've also examined the things Mr. Tyson does, his flaws, and I know what I'm going to do for him when he makes those mistakes.
But we haven't seen Mike Tyson hurt in a fight yet. Can you hurt Mike Tyson? Is there a way? Is there anything that you and your people feel he's susceptible to?
Yeah, I can hurt him. I'm going to hurt him Friday. Yeah.
With what?
I just come to the fight and see. I have a few things I want to show to Mr. Tyson, and I choose not to say, but it'll be pretty evident when the fight starts.
His training partner, James Tillis, had taken Tyson to a decision a fight or two before, and between them, they had an idea of how they could finally crack the Mike Tyson code. Boyd then made it clear that he had the perfect answer to Tyson's weaknesses, and on fight night, the whole world was going to be shocked when he exploited his opponent on the big stage. And look, who knows? Maybe Lorenzo Boyd did have the perfect antidote to Mike Tyson's talents. But when the time to actually fight came, he didn't get any chance to get his game going. At this stage in his career, Tyson was truly untouchable. His athleticism was unparalleled, and the sheer force that he was able to generate was truly outstanding. And in the second round of this bout, instead of seeing Boyd produce some major surprises, we instead got the expected result. But even by his own standards, this was an outrageously good knockout. That classic right hook to the body, then right uppercut directly after, was enough to send Boyd flying across the canvas. This was one of the greatest displays of raw power that Tyson had given us up to that point. And the ref only needed a few seconds to realize that Lorenzo Boyd had absolutely zero chance of recovery.
Sharp right uppercut to the body by Tyson. Again, a double right hand to the body and the chin. Down goes Lorenzo Boyd. The count is 5.
The year was 1995, and the former champion of the world, Mike Tyson, had finally been granted his release from prison. It doesn't matter how much you train or focus when you're behind bars. There was no question that the lack of high-level activity for over 4 years was going to hurt Iron Mike, sapping away at his prime potential. But after running through Peter McNeely in under a round, the general public were starting to believe in Tyson again. But his second opponent after prison, Buster Mathis Jr., was certainly not among that number. No, in his mind, Tyson was not going to bring anything to the table that would surprise him. All those years behind bars were going to hurt and hinder his development. And pre-fight, Mathis seemed to be certain that this version of Mike Tyson was going to underestimate just how much of a danger his opponent could be here.
He's coming with left hook, coming out wide, coming out swinging hard, coming out fast. I got to do the same thing. I got to bring it to Mike. Like I said, Mike not going to get into my mind. I'm going to do what I got to do to beat Mike Tyson, plain and simple. I'm not afraid. For every action, there's a reaction. So everybody know how Mike Tyson is going to act November 4th. So it's up to me how I'm going to react. Well, I ain't going to tell you.
Help the public understand, I mean, you're a young fighter at age 25 with 20 fights under your belt, but what should give the public confidence that you really can give Mike Tyson a good fight?
Well, you know, I'm very confident, you know, and when I'm going to fight Mike Tyson, I know what Mike knows. He's from the school of D'Amato, and my father was trained under D'Amato, Ferriello was trained under D'Amato, so I know what Mike Tyson's going to do. Now it's up to me what I'm going to do. He's underestimated me, and I love when people underestimate me.
And this won't be an 89-second bout against Mike Tyson on November 4th.
I am no McNeely. I'm Buster Mathis, and I can bring it to him.
Unfortunately, Mathis was the one making the grave error in judgment. But at first, things were actually going pretty well for him. Buster was standing right in the pocket with Tyson and making him miss. If there ever was an ideal game plan to get Tyson frustrated early, this was it. All of a sudden, the fans started to wonder if this older, less sharp version of Iron Mike was about to get exposed. Had Mathis and his pre-fight confidence been on the money? Well, as it turned out, no. Tyson was simply looking for the perfect shot, and when he started landing consecutive uppercuts, it didn't take long for him and the entire world to get a reminder of why Mike Tyson was once seen as the most fearsome puncher in the sport. Just because your name is Buster doesn't mean you're destined to repeat history.
As you know, I made the move when I caught him. I tried to catch him again. I caught him up top of the head again. Then there's another one. Just glanced and really didn't hit him as hard as I anticipated to hit him.
Frank Bruno was a damn good fighter in his day. A guy who only lost to the very best of the best in his prime. And after losing to Mike Tyson, when they were both younger fighters, the tables were turned somewhat when Iron Mike, post-prison, signed on the dotted line to rematch Bruno for his world title. This time, despite losing by finish in their first fight, Bruno was confident, maybe too confident, that he was going to get the job done. In his eyes, Mike's predictable style of fighting, his constant forward movement, all of this was going to keep him in trouble against a guy as technical and evasive as him. In his own words, Bruno repeatedly promised the media and his fans that he would KO Tyson, and he would knock him straight into Don King's lap. Tyson's infamous promoter, of course, if you don't know.
Coming to whip his ass. It's quite simple. Myself knocking out Mike Tyson, spectacularly knocking him out. There's no way, he just has to come straight at me all the time. Straight at me. But it'd be like running into a wall all the time. That was then, this is now. And I'm the champ, the WBC champ, and he's going to try and take it off me, but he's only going to get a look at it because his time's gone. Very much a fighter, you know. I mean, I've been an underdog all of my life, and I've been up to the mountains 4 times, and this is my time, this is Bruno's time. Tyson's had his time, you know. He's made his money. I'm going to do him a favor and knock him out right into Don King's lap.
Well, Frank, at age 34, why should we suspect things would be different 7 years later?
Well, just turn up on Saturday the 16th of March and you'll see how things are going to be different. I'm going to knock him right into Don King's lap. Quite simple. Not being flash, not being cocky. I've got a family to support. 3.
You
a beautiful wife. Sorry?
You flatly predict a knockout.
Knockout right into Don King's lap. He is in his grave now, and you can see all them amateurs and them terrible people behind him. He'll be turning in his grave, you know what I mean? To have all them people shouting confidence, he must be lacking in something. But I want to knock him out so good into Don King's lap and wipe him off the map because he's bad for boxing, and his people are bad for boxing.
But while Frank Bruno was always a great fighter, there was a major weakness in his game. Bruno's chin was just not up to the standard that you really need to become a great heavyweight fighter. And this was proven on several occasions over his career. On this night, it immediately became clear that Bruno was having a big reaction to every shot Tyson landed. Iron Mike realized pretty quickly that his punches were having a huge impact on Bruno's confidence. The promise of masterful footwork and head movement just didn't come into play. Bruno had those skills for sure, and his ability to use them against lesser opposition is undeniable. But he was in there with one of the most murderous punchers in history. And from there, Tyson swarmed Bruno in the 3rd round, forcing the ref to stop the fight. Mike had won his first world title in 5 years, sending his old rival into retirement. Frank Bruno was so certain that his footwork and movement would give him a major advantage, but when the punches start flying, all that preparation goes out the window if you can't take a good punch.
It is
Tyson era has begun.
I told you Frank Bruno had no chance because those absolutes Mike hits with both hands. He's got a good chin. You're not getting him out there one shot. Bruno never throws more than one hard punch at a time, and Bruno's chin.
Kubrat Pulev is a man who has rubbed quite a lot of fans the wrong way over the years. And when he came face-to-face with Anthony Joshua, he provided us with yet another example of biting off way more than you could chew. In fact, his pre-fight trash talk was so confident that we're sure even a few neutral fans were hoping for a Joshua win before all was said and done. Pulev repeatedly shouted at AJ that he was amazing and promised to prove the world wrong when the time came to fight.
I respect you, man. Tomorrow I show you, man. Tomorrow I show you. I like you. Tomorrow I show you. Tomorrow I show you. Tomorrow I show you, bro. I like you, man. This is the good respect. Tomorrow I show you because I'm better than you. Try. I don't try. I do it. I don't try. I do it. I'm just talking. I don't try. I don't try. I swear to God. Tomorrow you try your best. No, don't try. We'll see who the last No trying. Yes, no trying. Tomorrow I show you. Yes, no trying. People like you. It's no trying. For many years in boxing, people like you have been talking. Tomorrow I show you. Tomorrow I show you. Tomorrow I show you. Okay. You know I'm better. Yeah.
Okay. You guys got time. You got time tomorrow.
You know I'm better.
We'll do it tomorrow, guys. Come on.
You know I'm amazing. I'm amazing. I'm amazing. Tomorrow will be a good day for you.
This is number one. Where's number two?
Respect you, my friend. I don't hate you. I don't hate you. I respect you. Really.
You've heard all this stuff before, but Kubrat Pulev had a way of saying it, to his credit, really made a lot of fans want to see him lose that much more. His constant aggression was met with total disinterest from Joshua. AJ was incredibly cool and calm in the face of this very loud contender, knowing full well that he had more advantages on his side, something he would go on to prove on fight night. And boy, was this an absolute clinic. Now, don't get me wrong, early on, Pulev retained a lot of his pre-fight confidence, showing himself to be unfazed by Joshua's power, or if he was, he hid it well by laughing in AJ's face in a taunting manner. But that was round 2. In round 3, things took a turn, and a drastic one at that. Joshua started turning up the intensity, landing more often, and with more and more power. This quickly turned into a total beatdown. Joshua scored multiple knockdowns, even forcing Pulev to take a knee at one point. Joshua was in a real flow state for this one, and Pulev just couldn't get his shots off. Eventually, the fight was called off, and by the time it happened, it was almost a surprise that the finish didn't come sooner. Kubrat's pre-fight cockiness and the promise that he was amazing, well, it certainly didn't look like that. Kubrat Pulev was a very good fighter in his day, but Anthony Joshua was simply on another level entirely.
Pulev, and that's it. And there is your ferocious finish. The count is on.
And finally, we come to the battle between the 21-year-old Mike Tyson and the unretiring Larry Holmes, a legend of the older days who had put off his plans to hang up his gloves in the hopes of teaching this young champion a thing or two about fighting. Holmes had every right to express his confidence pre-fight. I mean, the dude is a total legend in the business. But he definitely made the mistake of underestimating just how good Mike Tyson was, just how modern a threat he could be. And he also made the mistake of lighting a major fire under Tyson, calling him a dirty fighter in the media, accusing him of using elbows, headbutts, and other illegal maneuvers to swing fights in his favor.
That we have to work out yet, but it's a deal. You know, I'm ready to go in there with Mike sometime in January, whatever day they want, and hope it's going to be on HBO because I want the world to be able to see it. And out of this fight, I hope it's such thing as fairness. Last time I didn't get it, and I complained about it, the world seen it. Now I hope once they see it once more, is fairness. I'm going to knock this guy out. Seeing Tyson makes a lot of mistakes. And if he fights me dirty, that's what kind of fight it's going to be all night. Because I didn't see a class of fight. I didn't see a guy that with class in there tonight. I seen a guy that throws elbows. I seen a guy that throws butts. I seen a guy that hits after the bell. I seen all of this in Mike Tyson. I didn't see a gentleman in there. If they want to make him out of a beast that he's claimed to be, he's going to be in there with a beast. I'm an experienced professional fighter. I am no kid. I do not play. So if he wants to fight any way he wants to fight, I am capable of fighting any way anybody want to fight.
Everybody's...
And think about it. After this fight, people are saying, Larry Holmes, why? They won't say that anymore after this because I know what I'm doing.
And, well, all this did was make the young champ angry. And though he didn't need any more motivation to run through the 39-year-old veteran, Larry Holmes' old opponent, the great Muhammad Ali, was sitting ringside. And after losing to Holmes himself during his horrible decline, Tyson vowed that he would take out Holmes in revenge. And when the opening bell rang, this looked like an old man against a young lion. Holmes was known for his legendary chin, having never once been knocked out in his long career. But Mike Tyson was hitting him with a different level of power and ferocity. And when the fourth round came, despite a decent start for Holmes with his jab, Iron Mike dropped Larry to the canvas with a huge shot, before then dropping him 2 more times. All of a sudden, one of the most famously granite chins in boxing history had been cracked. Tyson had achieved revenge from Muhammad Ali, and Larry Holmes was forced to accept that he was not on Mike Tyson's level. And if you needed any more proof of this fight being a total masterclass from Tyson, Larry Holmes would go on to fight professionally for another 13 years, bringing him to the age of 52. And in that long run in the sport, across 75 fights, this was the only time Holmes was ever finished. And that should tell you everything that you need to know about Mike Tyson's power.
Right here goes to throw it, and it's caught in an explosive body.